Hello, my name is Roberto Ramos. This is my web of ecology. This is for my assignment for Dr. VJ for ecology. My name's right here. I am me. Let's begin. So ecology is everything in nature and how it reacts with one another. So today I was tasked with creating a chart or a web just to show the links between everything. So to start, I have ecology. I have linked it to 4 different points: energy flow, biochemical cycle, human impact, and biomes. Okay, we're gonna start off with energy flow. For energy flow, I've linked these two to sunlight and population. Sunlight is where we get all of our energy from. Sunlight, plants absorb this sunlight using photosynthesis and create nutrients, right? Which is then eaten by primary consumers, who are then eaten by secondary consumers, who are then eaten by tertiary consumers, and so on and so forth. All right? And they're all consumed by decomposers at the end. So sunlight is food, right? And that is very, very important for the survival of animals. I'm gonna go down to population now, which is linked to energy flow. For population, I've linked it to 2 different types: exponential growth and logistic growth. So these are just like the way something will grow. Exponential is at a steady pace, logistics is like phew, spiking up. And these are both limited by the carrying capacity. What is carrying capacity? Carrying capacity is a thing that is stopping a area from just growing beyond its means. And the way that is controlled is by food availability, disease, predation, parasitism, and limited resources. These are all connected together, right? And survivability. And survivability is determined by the type of the animal. For example, we have a type 1 animal, which is an animal that's less likely to live as a baby. It needs a lot of care. Think of an elephant, for example, or not a turtle, or a human, right? So it needs a lot of care when it's young, but when it's older, it's gonna live a long, full life, likely to reach old age. Then we have a type 2 animal, which would be like a bird, where it's always at risk, right? Always at risk, but it has a chance to live. And then we have a type 3. These are our insects, our fish, not likely to live very long, very short lives. They usually come in bundles of 1,000 when being born. So that is it for population. All right. I've linked ecology to biomes. So biomes are just like the areas on the planet. I've linked the biomes to 2 different types of biomes: aquatic biomes and terrestrial biomes. Let's speak about aquatic first. So for aquatic, we have freshwater environments, wetland environments, coral reefs, and ocean environments. That's like the whole ocean as a whole. I didn't speak too much about it, but I did speak about the ecosystem components for both aquatic and terrestrial. So we have the living components would be the producers, the consumers, and the decomposers. And for the non-living components would be sunlight, water, air, soil, minerals, and the temperature of the area. These are all very important for the survivability. Now we're going to be speaking about terrestrial biomes. So for those, I have desert, rainforest, grassland, savanna, temperate forest, taiga, and tundra. Yes, there are little mixtures in between, but these are the main wholes. You can classify everything as one of these. Terrestrial biomes and aquatic biomes are both ecosystems. I just want to note that. And they are both heavily affected by climate change, which is a human impact. So that's going to be it for biomes now, right? Now we're going to be speaking about human impact. I've connected human impact to deforestation, biodiversity loss, overfishing, and urbanization, and climate change and erosion. So urbanization affects the biomes because the animals lose their environment, right? And it affects the population. I've also linked it to deforestation, which affects terrestrial biomes and technically aquatic biomes, and which also affects the population of an animal and its survivability. Human impact is also linked to climate change, which is caused by greenhouse gases from us burning fossil fuels, drilling for oil, fracking, and all that, which also leads to loss of biomes. That's a lot. We also have overfishing, which leads to loss of population, which leads to loss of biomes. So there's no food, animals can't sustain themselves, they all end up dying. And human impact also leads to, where is it? Where is it right now? Extinction. All right. Biodiversity loss leads to ecological changes, right? This can be the introduction of invasive species to an area, extinction of a species altogether, erosion, and migration and natural selection. What is natural selection? So I've bullet pointed some principles that determine natural selection. So we have variations of a species. For examples, we can use the finches, the birds on the island with the different beak structures. Production size, for example, say a fish only would spawn 300 eggs every mating season. But now these fish are spawning even more, and they're all smaller. That's due to natural selection, because all these bigger fish are being plucked away. And then we have the reproduction of successful individuals, right? So say we're seeing a change. Say these individuals, these fish are not reproducing as much. That's involved with natural selection. And we have the different structural, can be like the colors of the animals. Maybe that's why it's dying. Say this rat is black, this rat is white, but it's snowing, so the black rat sticks out and the bird eats the rat. But the white rat lives. Ecological changes can also be adaptations. So I linked these to 3 different types of adaptations: structural, physiological, and behavioral. So the behavioral, the way the animal acts, psychological, the way the animal thinks, the way it does, that can also be affected by parasitism, and structural, the way the animal's like built. So then we have migration. Good, so let's talk about evolution now. So evolution, I've linked this to behavioral evolution and co-evolution. Co-evolution is when 2 animals are basically fighting one another in a way, they're evolving against each other or with each other. A good example of this would be a lion chasing a gazelle. The lion is evolving to better get the gazelle, and the gazelle is evolving to better not get by the lion, if that makes sense. So behavioral evolution would be organisms living together. For example, a herd of buffalo, a herd of gazelle. Because the lion's gonna get a gazelle, right? But if you're in a pack of 100, you're less likely to get picked off. And behavioral evolution also leads to mating behavior, all right? So mating behavior is based off of the predator abundance, the mate's quality, and the food availability, right? These all affect what this female thinks, saying there's not a lot of food available, I'm just gonna mate with whatever, right? There's a lot of predators that mate with whoever. But they wanna mate with someone who helps them, someone who's likely to produce good offspring with it. There's 2 types of mating systems. We have monogamous, which is one partner forever, for life, like humans do, most humans. And polygamous, which is multiple partners, which most animals practice. Animals don't really care, because you're more likely not gonna see that animal again. So males just want the highest chance of producing an offspring. And this is all determined, the evolution of mating behavior, by biochemical cycle, right? Because it's the nutrients, the area. Let's talk about it. The biochemical cycle. I've linked this to the nitrogen cycle, the water cycle, the phosphorus cycle, the sulfur cycle, and the carbon cycle. Let's talk about the nitrogen cycle. So that's the way nitrogen gets into the ground, how it's in the air, and how it works. So we have nitrogen fixation, which is caused by decomposers like mushrooms. And this causes nitrification, which plants use, and that's assimilation right there, and denitrification, so it's released back. And then we have the water cycle. So the water cycle, I've linked it to evaporation, condensation, precipitation, infiltration, and these all cause runoff, right? Which is erosion, which is not a human impact, but it could be linked to climate change, because an area that used to not have a lot of rain now does because of greenhouse gases. Then we have the phosphorus cycle. It's the exact same thing as the nitrogen cycle, how phosphorus gets in the ground, how it gets out, and how it spreads. And then the sulfur cycle, the exact same thing. Sulfur cycle leads to acid rain, which leads to erosion, to no, I don't like that. Then we have the carbon cycle. So the carbon cycle, exactly the same way, the way carbon is stored in rock, in ocean, and how it is being released through the burning of fossil fuels, and how this is affecting the ocean uptake and the respiration altogether, right? So the carbon cycle causes greenhouse effect, right? So that is the heating of our planet due to the ozone being depleted, right? So there's more radiation coming in and it's making it hotter. Not very good, right? And that directly affects mating behavior, right? The animal's uncomfortable, makes the animal stressed out. That affects human impact. It's a part of human impact. But this ozone depletion affects everything as a whole, right? If any one of these topics are out of order, ecology as a whole wouldn't function, because everything depends on something one way or another. So ecology really is a web. This project really did help me understand how the littlest impact of an area can cause the complete destruction of it, right? And it makes me think that our planet, we do need to maintain everything, and we need to keep a order as it is. And we need to prevent biodiversity loss. That is it for now. Thank you so much. My name is Roberto Ramos.